Hello Internet! So I've got World of War 85 back at the table for Scenario 7, Fear Naught. Scenario of the Soviets against the British. So the British are taking an attacking role in this, and there's some key points along this route here, a couple of bridges and a little cityscape which they've got to try and take in 12 turns. There's a Soviet force that's going to be controlled by the Solar System deck in this game. Backing up here, they're trying to defend it. And we've got 12 turns to take control of all three for a complete victory. If there's only two get taken control of by the British, then it's a draw, and less than that, it's a Soviet victory, a successful defence. Now, there's very limited forces in play. There's only two formations for the Brits. You've got 4 challengers from the Royal Hussars, and you've got a bit of infantry and some transports coming in for the Staffordshire Regiment, the 1st Battalion of C Company. And they're trying to start on the board. They get initiative in this game, and the C Company come on in this road hex here when the formation card's first drawn. Now, there's no OBA at all. There's the event card is in the deck, the battlefield event friction card, and on turn 3, close air support cards are added for both the Soviets and the British. So these could be quite key, I think, just because there's a lot of distance to cover in 12 turns. And there's a lot of Russians. Although they only get 1 formation card each, there's more motion for the Brits. It's still a numbers game. So, like most of my solo playthroughs, I'm not going to show you every single turn, but I'm going to drop in and out in every couple of turns and show you the progress of what's happened on the map and highlight some key things that have cropped up through the game. So, with no further ado, let's get the dice rolling. So turn 3 is just about to begin, and it's already looking really bad for the Soviets. They were in this little city here, but as the challengers of the Hussars moved up around this area, there was a point where the challengers were in their 14 range, so they were firing. They got an extra activation and were firing at effective range. But the Soviets that were here were firing at long range in their op fire as they were coming in. So there's a disruption or two, nothing, but there's a couple of wrecks around here, a lot disrupted. It was really good for the challengers. These challengers are really strong. Now challengers have managed to move into point blank range. They're rolling 4 dice. They're looking for 2 to hit. These beasts are unstoppable. In the first turn, there wasn't an activation for the Soviets at all. The only thing they did was op fire. In the second turn, they did start to move forwards due to how the solo deck played for them. Most of them had to move forwards. I mean, they did a bit of op fire at the beginning. No, nothing's reduced, but there's a couple of disruptions which slowed things down. But they are in severe trouble. Now, as we're going into turn 3, both sides get some close air support going into the formation deck. So, let's see if that can turn the tide around and do a bit of damage to those challengers. So at the end of turn 3, the Soviets are really, really on the back foot. The challengers have been swarming forwards, picking off the remaining things. All that is left on the Soviet forces is their HQ and a single T-80 standing firm on objective C. Now, the close air support hasn't played any role in this yet. There has been a disruption and a breaking of one of the challengers, and that is the first lasting negative for the Brits at this point. We're a third of the way into the game in turn length, and this poor little guy, they're not going to survive. I'm going to play the next turn or two and just see how quickly the British can get their complete tactical victory. I'm not expecting any real surprises to pop up at this point, so I'll just formulate some thoughts, because I've had a few thoughts about where this scenario, or at least the Solitaire setup, could be tweaked a little bit. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So, on with the slaughter. So turn 7 and it's all over. All 3 of the key places have now come in complete control of the British forces, and there is not a single Soviet left on the board. So this is just over halfway through the game that got to this point, and there are 2 main reasons that I think that came to pass. One of them, which I think is the biggest issue by far, the Soviet solo setup for this is built on an offensive deck, and when they are set up around these locations which the British have got to take, having them in this offensive posture with the offensive cards in the deck makes them more likely to be pushing forwards and attacking instead of falling back and protecting these sites, which are the crux of the victory. So even if it was just a case of changing it to a defensive posture and putting in the defensive Silver Star cards in the solo deck, I think that this scenario would make a lot more sense. Now, as for the solo setup, you roll randomly to see whether they set up around A, B or C, and what I rolled was that they set up around C. Now I'm just going to zoom out and I'm just going to show you a little weirdness which really changed the early game for me. I'm just going to do a quick little reset of some counters here. So just for illustrative purposes, out of the 3 possible locations for the Soviets to start, they started around C. And some of them in the city, some of them around it. But the British forces started on the board up here, or coming in on this road hex over here. Now what I discovered quite early on is when I got the challengers to about here, the Hussars, and the Soviets were still defending this city area here, they were still staying close to it, you get a little situation a bit like this. So here you've got a range between the 2 of them where, for my challengers, they're shooting at effective range, but all of the op fire coming back from the T-80s is at long range, and I really managed to use this sweet spot to my advantage and pummel the Soviet forces with the insane firepower of the challengers, and they just did not be able to get anywhere near as good firepower back on me. I'm not joking when I say the challengers have an insane firepower. With 4 dice, 3 to hit, even at effective range, you're getting hits with the majority of your dice. You bring that up to point blank, so within 7 hexes, and suddenly you're rolling 4 and yet looking for 2s. You stick your HQ on there, at point blank range, you're rolling 6 dice, you're looking for 2s. It just steamrolls everything. These challenger units are insanely powerful against other armour platoons. And I don't think that's a complete balance issue for this scenario, but in combination with the little lucky window I found, that little sweet spot of range, that'll work together to just be an unstoppable force in this scenario. So yeah, I did enjoy playing this one. It was a complete steamroll. I think I'm probably going to play it again, but follow my idea of setting up the Soviet deck to be in a defensive posture instead of an offensive posture. Or I may take the Soviets and run the British side as the AEO and see how that plays out. I'm more inclined to check out the Soviet AEO using the defensive posture, just to confirm my own theory, but either way, it's not the best scenario I've played, but I did enjoy myself, as I tend to always when I'm playing World at War 85. It's a really satisfying solo game. Even without the solo deck, the formation card system is just so well suited to a single player game. I haven't played anything quite like it that's tickled that itch just as well for a long time. So, as always, chuck any comments down below. Love chatting to you guys. But until next time, happy gaming!